Hey everybody, today I use Lavenwood from the Shave Mercantile, and I wrap up the story of the Battle of Athens, Tennessee, America's Forgotten Revolution. Here we go. Everyone, how's it going? John Bonham here, Cape Cod Wet Shaving. Alrighty, 2 weeks later, a little over 2 weeks, time for part 2 of the Battle of Athens, Tennessee. Sorry it took me so long. Real quick, coffee of the day. Pumpkin latte from Grand Cafe. Never heard of them until now. I bought this while I was in line at TJ Maxx. You know, they have all those impulse buys that are there for people like me. And I looked over and saw that, and I was like, oh, all right. As I've aforementioned, I love this time of year, so pumpkin latte sold. Okay, let me get into it. So today, because it's a Tennessee topic, by the way, let me start out with, if you didn't see part 1, go check out my other videos. Maybe I should put the link in the description. I'll do that just in case you want to see part 1, which would make sense because this is part 2. But it was a topic recommended to me by Ethan of the Shave Mercantile, owner and proprietor of the Shave Mercantile. And so last one I used his Sunkist, I believe. I think. Oh my gosh, that's so bad. I don't know. I used his soap in both of these. So today I'm going to be using Lavenwood. I believe it's Lavenwood. It's lavender and cedarwood. Wonderful soap. This is the first soap I ever got from him. In the Shave of the Day photo, this is the label. This is his newest one. This is the older label. And I'm going to be using that one because, you know, I'm already into the tub. So I'll be doing that. Pre-shave oil is Cremo Cedar Forest beard oil. I do use beard oils as pre-shaves. I don't see a problem with them. They might not be as slick as an actual pre-shave oil, but it does soften the whiskers and all that stuff. So, all right. So, I'm going to finish it off with KRS Denton Majik Aftershave Splash. Very nice scented splash, by the way. And the balm, I'm going to be using Elvado's Woodland Reserve. This is really nice stuff. So, that's what I'll be using. Oh, and I'll be using my West Coast Shaving Rosewood safety razor along with a Perma-Sharp blade. Okay? All right. Let me get into this. Oh, brush. It's going to be my Mag T Badger brush. I was after, is what I wanted to say, and then it came out as wanted. I was after their synthetic brush, and right as I finally went to go get it, it was sold out. I like the handle shape, but they said they still had the Badger brush, which I procured, and that's what that is. Nice little brush. I haven't used it too much since I got it, so decided to use it on camera for the first time. Alrighty. Keep the old face wet. Let's get to lather. Oh. So last time I had said I wasn't sure if I could mention who private labels his soap. Ethan said he didn't have a problem with it. He actually prefers to mention them every chance he gets so they get business. So it's a company called Music City Suds. They are also out of Tennessee. I've spoken to them once or twice. They seem like a really nice, I think it's a married couple, if I remember correctly. Husband and wife team, very nice people. They're the ones who make the shave soap for them, but they also have bar soap. I believe they have shampoo pucks. I haven't checked with them in a while. Look, their soap lathers right up. Look at that. And so yeah, go check them out if you would like. They don't just make shaving soaps, they make all kinds of stuff. They're artisans. Again, very nice people. All right. And again, little one is sleeping right next door. So hopefully he doesn't wake up. I just put him down for a nap in preparation for this video. But in case he wakes up, I might have to come back in later and re-lather and pick up where I left off. So he should be good though, knock on wood. He's been doing better with sleeping, by the way, for those who have known my struggle over the last 4 months he's been in our lives. We finally broke him, got him into a sleep routine. He still resists us from time to time. Last night was rough, but that was more because our stupid smoke alarms kept going off. Brand new smoke alarms, and they kept going off over and over again, so I had to disconnect them. I know it's bad, but I get to deal with that later today. Might end up having to call the fire department to have someone come out and look at them because we can't figure out what it is. Reset the breaker to the house, the main breaker, everything to reset the system, and can't figure out what it is. Anywho, all right, Battle of Athens, Forgotten Revolution, Part 2. Long overdue. Sorry, everyone. I also have some reviews. This is going to be a busy week for me. I have three reviews to do and a razor company video. So this is going to be a busy week or two. I'm going to try to squeeze everything in within the next week. So I'll be busy keeping out for videos. All right, so when we left off, we had talked about a man named Cantrell and another man named Mansfield. Cantrell was the original sheriff of McMinn County. He ended up becoming state legislature, and his little lackey named Mansfield became the sheriff. And then Cantrell came back, wanted to be sheriff again, and then Mansfield switched places with him. And when I left off on the last video, it was mentioning a man named Bill White. Okay? Bill White was a survivor of the Pacific Arena of World War II. He was a hero, just like most of the GIs that came home. In my opinion, every GI who managed to make it home was a hero, regardless of what they did. But in this case, they fought tyranny and oppression and fascism over, abroad, and then came home and had to deal with it domestically. So, all right, let me show you the lather real quick of this stuff. It is a vegan soap, but it is absolutely, delicious. And this is just lavender and cedarwood. And it's actually cedarwood and a hint of lavender is the actual description. So if you're not a lavender fan, and believe it or not, I'm not a huge lavender guy. Big surprise there. But I really like this soap. They keep the scent strength medium. Ethan said that they keep people in mind who might have, skin sensitivities, frag burn potential, all that. So they do really well keeping that in mind with their customer base. I almost just reached over and took a drink of my soap brush soaking glass. All right, so anyway, sorry. I left off right when the battle was going to begin, the official battle. So remember, August 1st, when the polling happened, Cantrell made it clear that he wasn't going to allow a free election to occur. So after the 200 officers, remember that, were called in by Cantrell, it became clear that he was willing to suppress votes in violent means. It was just straight up scare tactics, like mafia style, okay? It was to make a statement, seeing all these cops walking around, making a presence. And, a lot of the people just backed off. They just said that it's not even worth it. We can't win. There's no beating him. He's been doing this for years. He's in charge of the county. There's nothing we can do. And Bill White and a lot of GIs stepped up and said, yeah, I don't think so. Bill White himself gave this very rousing speech that got a lot of the GIs to join the cause. And I wanted to include it here, but it was really long. And there's another quote at the end I'm going to mention, so I decided to omit it. But if you go look it up, you can find it, where Bill White was talking about oppression abroad and oppression here and da-da-da. So it's really cool. Okay. After receiving no response from the 2 letters sent out, remember they sent out a letter to, I believe it was DC, to the FBI, and another one to the governor, if I remember correctly, and they did not receive a response from either, because they knew that the voting was going to be ugly and they wanted help. They wanted people there to regulate it and make sure it was fair. And remember, the mayor was gone. He was conveniently on vacation. So there was no enforcement. Cantrell was the guy in charge. War veteran and hero Bill White began to organize a militia made up of around 30 men when it first started, okay? So, the militia became known as the Fighting Bunch. That's what history would call them. After it became clear that yet another election was going to be stolen, they decided to act. So remember, there was a lot of violence going on. Remember, there was a black man shot and all kinds of stuff, shot in the back. So violence had already broken out by the time this militia was formed. And the reason I mention that is because of what comes later with the media and the press and stuff, who actually tried to say that the GIs had chosen the route of violence when it was unnecessary, because a lot of the biases of people at the time were that these veterans were coming home and they were extremely prone to violence, and some of them were. We now know PTSD, they called it shell shock, they called it all kinds of stuff back in the day. But not all of them were. It was just an unfortunate stereotype, and they ran with that. Like, look, they just overthrew a town. Anyway, getting ahead of myself. So, White and several GIs took a truck and broke into an armory. They loaded as much ammo as they could into the truck, and they procured about 70 rifles from the Veterans Headquarters, and that's what that is a photo of. There's the GI Headquarters in Athens, okay? That's an actual photo of it. By 9 p.m. on the evening of August 1st, the voting day, Cantrell, Mansfield, and 50 deputies would proceed to lock themselves in the jail to count the votes, okay? So they knew what they were doing, and they wished to do it unencumbered and uninterrupted. So they locked themselves into the jail to count. When I say count, I use that with hilarity, because obviously they're probably sitting there playing cards, laughing, just waiting for the clock to run out on the election, because everyone there knew who was going to win. Everyone with Cantrell knew who was going to win, and everyone against Cantrell knew who was going to win. So it was really just, to them, a foregone conclusion. Oops. I have a pimple on my neck. Reminded myself twice about it, and then proceeded to forget about it and just hit it, but I don't think it's bleeding. So that's good. And this soap, I like the base a lot. It's very creamy. Ton of cushion with it. And pretty slick. It's very nice. Very, very nice for a private label vegan soap. I have all of them, if that tells you anything. Including a few that are not out anymore. And I think I had mentioned Classic Country Barber, I think, is my favorite. He has one called Sangria, which is, oh, that's the second soap that's wine. There's McDuff's Sauvignon Blanc, I think I'm saying that incorrectly, and Shave Mercantile Sangria. I'm not a wine guy at all, and I love both of those soaps. I love Sangria, it's so good. Anywho, the only reason I didn't use it is because I've used it in a video before. Okay, so the obvious intent was to rig the election and ensure Cantrell won again. All right, several veterans found places on nearby rooftops to take position, and their rifles were trained on the jail. All right, White and several fellow veterans then approached the building and demanded to the men inside that the votes be counted in public. That is a photo of the jail. I believe it is gone now, or if it is still there, the building itself, obviously it's not a jail all these years later. But that was the jail in which the men locked themselves up and the siege occurred. Okay? That's what it looked like at the time. What started next has never been officially confirmed, in that there's no actual historic documentation, photos, anything. Only hearsay and interviews with men who were there. And oddly enough, it was Bill White himself who said he instigated and fired the first shot. But in essence, they walked up, they demanded that they return the votes. There were about a dozen, maybe a baker's dozen, voting boxes that they took. And they're demanding them to be counted in public. You know, obviously I don't think there was a response at all. White himself claims he fired the first shot. Either way, the veterans began to fire upon the jail from their positions with their rifles, okay? They fired on the building for hours, okay? It was about 6 to 7 hours. But Cantrell and his group refused to surrender, okay? This is a real photo of them shooting at the jail. I don't know who took this photo or why, but these men, this was in the middle of them from one of their positions shooting down at the jail. By now, the veterans began to fear that they would be punished if reinforcements or the National Guard arrived, okay? So well into the siege, there were rumors beginning to circulate because this was a jail. They had radios and everything else in this jail. Rumors were circulating that reinforcements were on the way. Either the Army, the National Guard, something was en route to stop it. And so the longer this siege went on, the more the men just basically got this attitude of, well, there's nothing to lose now, which is probably true. Because now you've gone this far, you're besieging a state building to get to a state employee. Doesn't look good. I mean, he deserves it. But on paper, it doesn't look good. It really looks like the overthrow of the local government, which is what it was. That's why it was called the only other successful revolution aside from the American Revolution in United States history, because that's what it was. Okay? So it was all or nothing for these guys. As such, they decided to use Molotov cocktails by 2:30 a.m. So this is August 2nd now, 2:30 in the morning, because it was doing nothing. They were just shooting at this brick building and it was doing nothing. It wasn't going anywhere. So they busted out Molotov cocktails, started lopping those, and then they broke out dynamite. Before they were able to use the dynamite, however, there's an ambulance that came up, pulled up to the building. These are GIs. These are men who really on both sides had respect for the medics. And I mean both sides. I'm not sure about the Germans. I think even it was an unspoken thing out in the field, especially in World War I. If you saw a medic, there were even periods where there was a ceasefire so that you could collect your dead and wounded. So these were GIs that saw this ambulance come up and they immediately stopped. Because as far as they were concerned, this ambulance was here to pick up, you know, there's over 50 men in this building. It's here to pick up some wounded. So they allowed this ambulance to pull up and proceed. Well, I'll be damned if the door didn't fling open and out runs Cantrell and Mansfield. They hop into the ambulance, leave all these other men, these deputies, in the jail, proceed to hop in the ambulance, and the ambulance flees. And they quite literally get the hell out of Dodge. Ambulance bolts out of town, takes them with them. Once a coward, always a coward, huh? So again, they had radios in there. So somehow they got word out that they needed help. I don't know who drove the ambulance. Obviously one of their lackeys to come and get them. Because the list of people who were going to help them at this point had to have been almost non-existent. So whoever did it at great peril to rescue a man who's so hated that the town is uprising, rising up against him. All right. So the deputies, on their own and exhausted, quickly surrendered. All right. Again, this was 6-7 hours later. They'd been fired. They were done. There were several violent reprisals against the worst deputies by the townsfolk at this point. And there was some rioting, unfortunately. But there was not a single casualty. There was not to be a single death the entirety of the evening. All right. Here's a photo. There's tons of photos of the aftermath. And there's not a lot of other stuff, unfortunately, but there's lots of photos of the aftermath. Cars overturned, everything else. Be a fact that that photo with the girl next to the car, that was one of them on the cover of this video. Okay. Half of the ballot boxes had been tampered with or destroyed. However, it was easy to tell that Cantrell had more than lost the election. He hadn't even come close to winning when they counted the votes that they could. Turns out everyone had voted for anyone and everyone but him. So they were obviously planning on making him the victor, no matter what the result was. But it was just kind of almost laughable how there's no way he won. Okay. Following the uprising, there was a man named Knox Henry who became the sheriff. And in the last video, I mentioned I had a photo of Knox Henry. I did not show it for this exact reason, because you see him shaking hands there. It's pretty obvious that he won the election. There were, I believe, 5 or 6 men, all of them veterans, GIs, who ran. So at this point, they just wanted themselves in. Anyone and everyone to run against Cantrell. But this man, Knox Henry, was decided would be the winner. And there he is, getting sworn in, shaking hands after his victory. Now, the veterans called a meeting right after all this. There were over 400 people who took part in this meeting. They decided to keep law and order for the time being, and more importantly, they decided to build up and keep their militia for now, in case Cantrell came back, because they fully expected him to come back with reinforcements. And, you know, they thought that they had a future battle on their hands. And so I'm sure that they barricaded the entrances of the town, all kinds of stuff, and they were just ready for a battle. And fortunately, that never happened. Be a fact, Cantrell would never come to Athens again. He was done. He fled and he stayed gone. Same with Mansfield, I believe. You know, they fled with their tails between their legs, rightfully so, and stayed gone. So, thankfully, it didn't come to that. There's a photo. These are some of the deputies. I thought that initially, I came across this picture a lot when I was doing research. I thought this was some of the guys like posing after they won, but this is actually some of the deputies of those 50 deputies after they surrendered. Sorry, bug. That's a photo that they took of them. Cantrell never returned. And be a fact, Bill White himself would later become a deputy of Athens. Okay? Let me rinse this off. I'm going to do post. I'll be right back. Alrighty. Great post shave. Love this stuff. Really good soap. If you've ever seen it, pull the trigger on it. At least give it a shot. Limeade is his flagship. It was the first one he came out with. It's his favorite. One of mine too. It reminds me of lime freeze pops, the ones in the casing that you push out. It smells just like that in my opinion. I wish I'd written down the scent notes for this splash. Kind of cologne-y. I think there's a little bit of citrus in it. Oh, really nice. Musk. Yep, there's some musk in it. It smells really good. Wow. I'm recently into Denton Majik. Taking me a long time. Not on purpose. I just, for whatever reason, I was busy with other artisans and stuff. But he has some nice soaps. And I went on his website and he had this splash standalone for sale for like $8. And I was like, oh, all right, I'll get it. And I haven't regretted it. It smells very nice. Powdery a little bit. Musky. I don't know what KRS stands for, but Oh. Mmm. Good stuff. All right. I think I did an interesting pairing. And I love, a lot of people don't like soaps that don't have a matching splash. I'm one of them. I always look for a splash or a balm. But I won't skip over something because of that, because I love to pair things. I love to sit there and spend 10 minutes just going through my stuff to see what would go good with this. You know what I mean? Oh, like he has one called Mochaccino. I paired it once with Candy Cane from Sterling. Oh, it was so good. What else? I paired it with Maryland. I can't remember. I'm going to go off in a weird direction. Just, I love pairing stuff. So, it's Cedarwood and Lavender, so it's fun to pair with a lot of things. Okay, so let's finish this up, right? In early September, the mayor of Athens resigned. Booyah. 4 aldermen would also then follow suit. Remember, Cantrell had all of these guys in his pocket. All of them. The mayor came back. So as it turns out, the mayor had come back from his little vacation, whatever the hell that was. And people were immediately calling for him to step down. And he at first resisted, and then just, it wasn't going away. It's not a good look when you're on vacation and people overthrow your town because your sheriff, who's been sheriff for a long time, is that bad. It's just not a good look. So he resigned. The media lambasted the revolt, here we go, for the most part, stating it should never have come to physical violence. Okay, where's my ring? All right. It was clear, however, that Cantrell and Mansfield had destroyed any other avenue. So there was literally nothing else. And they did go through the proper channels. They had those letters they sent out, and that came to light as well. Like, look, we tried. We really tried. Man, that smells so good. Sorry. I gotta do the balm too. Where is it? Behind my coffee. So it was clear that so politics in Athens, Tennessee would eventually return to normal. So unfortunately, the GIs set up their own kind of government for a while. And then they ended up having another argument, because then with this GI government that was put into place, factions started appearing in that. So then eventually they wanted another revolution, but there was disagreements right and left, and it just ended up not lasting, unfortunately. And they would eventually hand over McMinn County back to the state, and politics, when I say return to normal, it would return to the structure that was meant to have before Cantrell, a democratic structure with elected officials and all that stuff. But it fortunately did not go back. Some things didn't. It wasn't all rainbows and daisies. Remember that fee system? The fee system, believe it or not, stayed in play for another 4 or 5 years, even though it was not abused nearly as much as it was under Cantrell's tenure. But oddly enough, the fee system was there until they found a new way to implement, the tickets and all that. But, it was successful, is the main thing here. So 30 minutes, damn it. What I'm going to leave this topic with is a quote from Thomas Jefferson. If you go look up a printout of the Declaration of Independence, it's near the top, okay? There's a paragraph at the top, and it's somewhere in the middle of that. There's a quote by Thomas Jefferson. There we go. It says, some big words. You'll see. When a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Amen. A lot of that coming into play these days. globally, not just here. But couldn't say it better myself. So that is the Battle of Athens, Tennessee. So I think there's a movie made. There are a couple of books. I'll put one of them that kept popping up. It seems to be the most popular. There's 2 or 3 of them. But I will put the one I saw down in the description, a link to it. It's really interesting. What hooked me with this was that I went and looked it up, and the first thing that popped in my head was, holy shit, I've never heard of this. Excuse my French. But that's literally what I said. I was on my phone. I was like, oh shit. And it's just crazy that you've never heard of something like this. I mean, it's the only other revolution besides the revolution that was successful in American history. And just, you know, into the ether of history. And not well known. So that's a shame. And I do want to mention Elvado Grooming. I just used him recently. This is good stuff. I really like his balm. The smell of it is very woody. It's Woodland Reserve. But there's almost a lemony, kind of tart scent to it. And the balm absorbs very quickly. It's very nice. I like it a lot. So, all right. So, coming up, I have a review of Eastwood from Wet Shaving Store. Hello, Andy. Hendrix Classics & Co. Hello, Mr. Hendrix, Peter Hendrix. And Shave Dad, Jerry. How you doing, Jerry? So I will be doing a review of that. Today is Tuesday. Tomorrow I'm going off Cape. And then Thursday. So Thursday I hope to do a review of that. After that I have a review of Elysian soaps. And then after that I have a review, believe it or not, of a straight razor, Tears Izzard from Grown Man Shave. They contacted me out of the blue, so that was awesome. I'm very much looking forward to that. Thank you guys, by the way. And thank you, Shannon. Can't wait for that. And Razor Company wants me to do a video for them, a shave and chat. So, hectic. But keep an eye out for videos. And as always, thank you all for watching these. I've had a couple people reach out, like I always say. Last night I had someone say that he likes that I talk about stuff besides shaving. And there was someone hilarious that I was speaking to. Who the hell was it? I thought of it last night because I knew I was going to mention this during this video, and I could not remember who said it. But it was basically someone who said, bottom line with these videos is a guy standing next to his shitter, which mine is right there, which is where I put my towels. And it's nice to have people reach out to me and say, hey, I love that you don't do the norm, really like what you do, all that stuff. Be a Fact Ethan, it was a friend of yours, he mentioned you and said he found me through you, so thank you, everyone. And that'll do it. Lavenwood and the Shave Mercantile. I don't know if this is discontinued. I should have gone and looked. I'm very bad at that. I'll talk about stuff and I should have done the research. But if it's there, I recommend this one. For a guy who does not really like lavender, I don't mind this at all. I really like this soap. It doesn't smell like there's a ton of lavender in it. Hint of lavender, I think, is literally the description of it. It's basic scent notes, but very nice. Go a long way. Just 2 scent notes. Otherwise, I would highly recommend any of them. But I love Sangria. Backyard's among one of my absolute favorites. Classic Country Barber's a great one. It's a French style barbershop. It's sweet, powdery. Very nice. Any of them. Give them a shot. And I think that'll do it. Really appreciate it, everyone. Thank you for watching this far. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you for returning. And thanks for the support. Really appreciate it, guys. Until next time, happy shaving and be safe. Enjoy autumn. I know I will. Take care.